You are listening to Missed Apex Podcast. We live F1. Welcome to Missed Apex Podcast. Today we are playing Top Trumps because this episode is brought to you by Top Trumps in association with the Silverstone Museum. They have released a new pack of cards called Top Trumps Silverstone Legends, and we're going to be playing that today. This isn't a paid advertisement. However, they were kind enough to send us a free set. So we're going to take advantage of that. This is based around drivers who have won at Silverstone across multiple disciplines across the history of motorsport. Remember, if you're going to Silverstone or you're going to be in the Milton Keynes area on Saturday, the 6th of July, come and join us in Milton Keynes. We're going to be doing a live pod at Formula Fast from 8 p.m. We believe the football is being shown there. We can't guarantee it's the best ever screen, but do come and join us. You can do a little bit of karting from 7 p.m. onwards, and then we're going to do a quiz and a live show as well. missedapexpodcast.com/live show. Now, joining me for Top Trumps is Chris Stevens. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Spanners. That was probably really quiet. I was behind the cards.
Yeah,
but yes,
fan
hello.
of cards.
Yes, a fan of cards. Top Trump cards that I shall use to defeat my enemies tonight.
Yeah, our Top Trumps can get competitive, but of course it features a range of legends, including Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Nigel Mansell, Valentino Rossi. So we're going to take the opportunity to talk about those athletes as they come up.
Yeah, it's got some MotoGP guys in there. It's got some touring car guys in there. It's got some people I've never heard of until I opened up this pack when it came through my door a few days ago. So yeah, excited for this.
And we've got our quiz master, Chris Catman Turner. Hello, Chris.
Hey, guys. I hope you're looking forward to the Formula Fast quiz because it's going to be as wrong as it normally is.
It's going to be chaos. I think what we're going to do, which worked really well in Miami, is we have like a knockout 50-50. So go to one side of the room if you think it's this answer, go to the other side of the room if you think it's another answer. So it's like Hunger Games, and it got really, really competitive in Miami.
That sounds good. And for the patrons who are going to be going along, this is a little spoiler. It's going to be all about British theme.
Oh, no, don't, because all week I've been getting British bias, British bias. You're only defending Norris because of British bias. And I have to keep going, I'm not actually a Norris fan. Sorry.
Ah, well, there you go. You might not win then.
And we're joined by Alex Jeansy Van Gene. Alex, hope you've got your Silverstone knowledge ready for this epic game of Top Trumps.
I love Top Trumps. I play Top Trumps with my kids all the time. I love it. So when this opportunity came around, I was like, yes, me. I want to play.
Yeah, and I think we've got enough cards for 7 rounds of Top Trumps, Catman.
Yeah, I was going to say all of the people with kids and the childish people have all jumped on this. Gone, yes, I will have a go. It sounds awesome.
I'm both of those things.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, this is perfect timing because I am going to Silverstone, so I'm going to take it to the campsite and play it with my son. So it's going to be awesome.
It's perfect. For anybody who doesn't know how Top Trumps works, we're each going to we're going to kick off with a card, and each of the drivers on the card, I'll show an example on the screen now. For example, you've got John Surtees there, and he has a year that he was born, the amount of starts he's had at Silverstone, the amount of wins he's had there, his career championships across different championships. Obviously, he did bikes as well, and his overall Top Trump rating. So whoever is in control can name their category, and then we go around the table to see if anybody else can beat that. If you've got the highest score that you nominated, then you get to, score the win. You score a point, I guess. I think that's how it works. All right, why don't we get going then? Who did we say was going to go first? In true family board game style, we're going to let the youngest go first. So,
Yay.
Chris Stevens, who's top of your pile and what category are you going to pick?
Okay. Well, I'm not going to... Well, if I tell you who it is, people might know the stats, but...
No, but it's up to you to pick the category, so it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, we can't choose someone to pit against you. It just has to be the top card that we've got.
No one
so
cheats.
You can say
everybody pick your card. You can't cheat. So which driver have you got first?
Okay, I'm going with Alain Prost.
Oh man, what a strong one to start with.
Strong start.
So Alain Prost is actually, he's my buffer when we say, if you go back in time, where does F1 as we know it start? And I say nothing before Prost to me is comparable to the modern era. That's my kind of cutoff point. So when people say, oh, Fangio's better than Max Verstappen, I go, no, let's go back to when were F1 cars properly F1 cars? And my cutoff point is Alain Prost.
It's also when were F1 drivers professionals as well. So I think Alain Prost was a true professional racing driver and probably one of the first of his breed. And then everything else comes from Alain. So I'm in total agreement with you on that, Spanners.
Yeah, and there's a sort of, from there you had kind of Senna, which leads very quickly into the Schumacher era as well, that is like the dawn of professional motorsport, isn't it?
Yeah, you still had a lot of people, even up until Schumacher came along and during the early years, where, as you said, they were gentleman drivers who would just turn up on the weekend and have very little previous racing experience. So, but now, as you say, everybody, even the pay drivers, if we call them that, have years and years and years of experience. So back then, it was very, very different. Yeah,
and there's a cutoff point. So you go, think of who's the worst driver in F1 today. Who's a driver that you don't rate, for example?
Gee, I wonder.
Okay.
Who off the top of my head?
Lance Stroll. Okay, let's
put it a kind of way. You go, which of the drivers who've been in F1 a little bit and have not, made their mark?
Lance Stroll.
Okay, fine. Lance Stroll, Latifi, Logan Sargent. Let's say Logan Sargent now. There is a point, if you go back further, that Logan Sargent will have been the best driver on the grid. You go back enough, and even the worst modern driver is just going to be an all-round better driver because of what they've had to go through to get to that point.
Oh, I totally agree. I've said this before. Everyone on the current grid is better than Fangio and anyone from that era, without a shadow of a doubt, because there is no way that a 50-year-old man who does F1 as a hobby is faster than a professional modern racing driver. Anyone. It's not comprehensible.
And also, Michael Schumacher said that he is the fastest person in F1, but he's by no means the best driver on the planet because it's such a selective process to get there. And it's not just based on talent, let's be honest. So, there are so many different people out there that could be faster if you stuck them in the car and gave them the same privileges and access to training and all that sort of stuff that they would have. So realistically, we're selecting from a very privileged group.
And live chat, hello live patron chat, getting upset with us already. Stuart says that excludes Hunt and Lauda. And
yes, it does.
Ooh, yeah, as you go back to Hunt and Lauda, that is definitely a grey area for this argument that I'm putting.
Lauda was a professional. Hunt was a
professional drinker,
a gentleman driver.
Yeah, professional drinker and partier.
To be fair to Lauda, he was great back then, and then came back and still hung with the likes of Prost and things like that. But where I talk about professional drivers, where it's a case of that's their life, that's what they do. Because Lauda's last championship was 1984, so that's very much the time of when Prost was around. So it's people in and around that era, but it's like Prost's class basically.
It was him versus Prost.
Exactly.
In 84, wasn't it?
So
right.
So Chris, what category are you picking?
So I'm going to jump in controversially straight away and go for the debate topic, which is the Top Trumps rating.
Oh, look at that.
For Alain is a whopping 97.
Okay. Is there any argument there? Because I think that's fine. I think in the discussion for greatest of all time, like Alain Prost has a genuine claim.
I thought there'd be some pushback on that.
From who?
No.
Between 95 and 97, I think is bang on for Prost.
You mean when he was a team boss?
I'm happy with that. The only thing I'm not happy with is it beats my card. So you have already beaten me.
No, a Top Trumps rating of 97 for someone who, for the longest time, had the second highest amount of world championships. I mean, I think that's really fair. Like, Schumacher obviously had 7. But you look at Schumacher's titles, and it was from, obviously, the Benetton championships were great, and then the Ferrari ones were from a big, long line of dominance. And I always say, like, even with Hamilton, and I'm a Hamilton fan, I think it's silly to look at all those consecutive titles and go, that counts as 4 or 5. Like, Verstappen, 22, 23. Does that really count as 2 titles. No, it kind of counts as one. Hamilton, 2019, 2020. That kind of counts as one, really.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But even when Prost had won his last title, Schumacher hadn't won any of them.
Yeah, but what I mean is Prost. Prost wasn't like a Vettel where it was just one period of domination from one team.
Yeah, it was over a course of a few years.
Yeah, and that said, though, Prost's title with Williams in '93 was up against, well, he had such a dominant car. It is like the Verstappen one, so you could essentially rule that one out. His impressive years were in McLaren and Ferrari against Senna. And I always think when you're looking at who is the best driver, you've got to look at who their compatriots are and see who they've actually beaten. Because if he's beaten Senna and has gone toe-to-toe with him, who's also regarded as one of the greats, then you're on pretty good footing.
But Senna accused him early on of ducking the challenge of driving against Senna, and then he didn't duck that challenge. So I don't know. I think you're hard pushed to really to put down Alain Prost too much. I think at the end of the day, he didn't have the same charisma as Senna. So when you do the movie version of Prost versus Senna, everyone's the Senna fan.
Because he won his championships and was excellent quietly. And you say that, they have done that movie in the Senna movie. They very much made...
It was a documentary, yeah.
But they still made Prost to look out not great.
Documentary. No. Right. All documentaries are like that, though. All documentaries are motivated by the creator of the documentary. So that's enough on Alain Prost. Top Trumps rating of 97 looks like it's going to be pretty conclusive. Van Gien, what have you got to throw up against that? Can you beat 97?
Oh, I've got 94, and I've got Sebastian Vettel.
Oh my god!
Right, so it's just rated Alain Prost higher than Vettel.
Yeah,
who has the same number of championships as him.
The funny thing is, actually, considering how impressive Sebastian Vettel's career is, especially in Formula One, his top trump card isn't that impressive because we always talk about the fact that if you're the older you are, the better you are for the stat. And he's obviously 1987, so he's a child. Only 16 starts at Silverstone, 2 wins, 5 championships, and a rating of 94. Rubbish in the bin.
You think about like him at Silverstone, obviously when they had a winning car, because he won it in 2009, but in 2010, it all went terribly wrong for him. He got like puncture on the first lap and then would make contact with other cars. Then in 2011, they got weird with the blown diffuser rules, and Ferrari suddenly had a quick car for one race and then never showed up to the rest of the season, and they won. And then what was
2012 was second, not good for a number 2 driver.
No, that was 2010. 2012 was just Webber was awesome. 2013 gearbox failure, and then obviously in 2014 he had a terrible car. I can't remember.
How do you remember all of this? That's I was at those races. I was at Silverstone from 2010 to 2013, and I don't remember all of that detail. But
I remember the gearbox one because it came up on a show a couple of weeks ago, actually. So
I remember Vettel's provided some of the best racing around Silverstone when he was duking it out with Fernando Alonso in that era somewhere.
2014.
That's the one.
Great race.
It was real good, real good.
The thing is, I think that's more of a benefit, more of a positive towards Silverstone. Silverstone does just drag up some amazing racing because of the way that track just flows into itself. I've been doing it this week on iRacing, and every time I get back on that circuit, I'm like, wow, I just love driving around the circuit because it truly is one of the greatest in the world.
And in nearly every corner, if you think you're going to lose out, you can set yourself up for the next series of corners, and they flow into each other just so fantastically. Yeah, so it is definitely. Oh, and that's coming up this weekend. This is well timed, Chris, isn't it? The Silverstone Legends in association
as if we planned it that
with
way.
The Silverstone Museum.
So do I get the Vettel card now?
Well, no, because you've got 2 more people to compete against. But I don't mind lingering on each driver.
Oh, I've got to beat all of you.
Yeah, you've got to beat all of us to do that.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah. So top trump rating of 94, I think only reflects the numerical amount of drivers' titles. I do not rate those 4 titles against even Senna's 3 titles or Alain Prost's 4 titles. So I think 94 is really generous given his overall record against teammates.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, as you say, he was He had a very, very dominant car with that Red Bull. And as you say, you had Mark Webber, who was an excellent driver, but could you suggest that he was top tier world champion material? Possibly not.
Where's this saying? Is Hamilton 98? And you go, yeah, as this comes up, there's a lot of opportunity to be upset because my thing is when Mansell comes up, if it isn't 100, I'm killing the live stream dead.
Oh, you're going to be upset.
Chris, a comment on Vettel.
Just his record against teammates, Spanners.
Yeah.
I mean, how he whooped every single one of them.
Apart from Ricardo,
Except Ricardo.
don't forget.
And Leclerc.
Except for Ricardo.
And kind of made,
Leclerc.
and the most unforgivable thing is it looked kind of close with Stroll. And then Alonso came in and just went.
Yeah, but post 2018, Sebastian Vettel doesn't count because that was not Sebastian Vettel anymore. That was
Yeah,
the
kids who didn't care anymore.
That was the ghost of Sebastian Vettel.
I was more interested in looking after bees by that point.
But his place in Formula One history is absolutely undeniable. And all those championship challenges, the multi-21, the establishing himself as the number one at Red Bull, which he clearly did, and he had to be pretty aggressive and ballsy to do that. He didn't get there by accident. I just don't rate it as highly as Prost.
But the thing is I don't rate it as highly as Prost. That's why he's at 94, and I think 94 is quite good. 94 is quite accurate because you talk about he did have a dominant car, and I believe he did. I don't think his car was any more dominant than Lewis's was. I don't think his car was any more dominant, especially than Max Verstappen's is currently. And we don't deny how great Max and Lewis are. And Seb had a lot of competition through 2011, he didn't have too much competition, but 2010 was a dogfight. 2012 was a dogfight.
Yeah.
2013 after Silverstone, it was clear running, but up until then, it was a dogfight. And he did have to get his elbows out, and he had to do some not particularly nice things to make sure he got some of those wins, but he was ruthless and aggressive, and during those times he didn't make too many mistakes, which is what we want
during those times. But then he had 2 more stabs at a world championship against Lewis Hamilton in a very handy car, and he made so many mistakes in 2017 and 2018, so many times, so many unforced errors. I believe that's the difference between at least one of those championships.
He fell off a cliff. He hit his peak and dropped off the end of it very quickly. Unlike Fernando Alonso, unlike Lewis Hamilton, who have hit their crest and are slowly coming off the end of their crest, Seb just dropped off of it. Don't know why. Commitment, family, all this kind of stuff comes into it that maybe stopped him, because that's the one thing to think about with Lewis and Alonso. Neither of them have families and children.
Chris.
I mean, definitely in 2018, Seb cost himself the title. I think 2017 was maybe more the team. I think I said at the time as well, if you had Fernando Alonso in that car in 2018, he'd have brought home the title.
Who are you saying there? Fernando Alonso, you say? That's interesting, because Fernando Alonso, unbelievably, is the card I've had to compete against Prost. Fernando Alonso is up there at 93, and
What?
93. What? So less than Sebastian Vettel. And by the way, we have permission from Top Trumps to dispute these ratings. We absolutely said, is it okay if we argue? And they're completely fine with it. But I rate Fernando Alonso as right up there. He's terrible at career management, but he's so quick and he's so ruthless and he gets under the skin of his teammates. Fernando Alonso, there is a universe where Fernando Alonso has 7 world championships, but there's also a universe where Fernando Alonso doesn't make it to F1. He's just that much of a firecracker. And I've said often, I'm a fan of Fernando Alonso, but I don't always wish him well. And I don't quite understand how my emotions towards Fernando Alonso are mixed.
Mine aren't.
I know that. But you can't not admire the guy. The guy he doesn't know how to quit. He's been in F1 100 years. He's a proven winner. He goes toe to toe. He took Lewis Hamilton all the way, within half a point of probably peak rookie Lewis Hamilton, who managed to win the garages, and he still fought to be nearly there. Yes, they cost themselves the title and gave it to Raikkonen, but my goodness, this guy is a battler.
Absolutely, and you got to remember that Fernando is faster than you.
Oh my goodness. Go on, Alex. I know you want to unleash. I know you do.
Listen, my biggest issue with Alonso has always been his attitude. I've never ever said he's not a brilliant driver. I've said on multiple occasions that he's probably one of the best to ever do it. But unfortunately, that's not all that you need to be a racing driver. And he misses so many. He has so many of the tools that you need to be successful in Formula One. Outside of just turning the wheel left and right, he just doesn't have, and that's the reason his career has taken. His career has not been as good as he says it should have been. I mean, that's also part of it. He is the best gaslighter on the grid by a country mile. He tells everybody how amazing he is and how magical he is and how wonderful he is, and everyone just buys it.
I buy it.
And
I'm in.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I dislike Fernando Alonso so much that when I bought my go-kart and my go-kart was a Fernando Alonso chassis, I had it dipped in acid and repainted a different color to not be an Alonso car.
But the thing is, so you his attitude has spiked you and has made you kind of root against him. But I think it's okay to have a pantomime villain in Formula One. I've had loads of pantomime villains. You know, Verstappen's my current pantomime villain, but I've had Schumacher as my pantomime, Vettel.
But he doesn't think he is. He doesn't. He acts and behaves like the baddie, but thinks he's the goodie. He thinks he's the one that's being having the bad things happen to him when he's the one dishing out the bad things. And it's like, you know, him saying, "Oh, I had no idea that what's his face put it in the wall in Singapore, so I could win. I just accepted that I was on a rubbish strategy."
The lawyers are getting involved. Catman.
Well, I was going to say, what pantomime villain ever accepts that they're the baddie?
Exactly.
You know, I love the fact that, you know, I support Alonso because I love the fact that he is the villain. It's brilliant to watch.
Exactly.
L Plan was fantastic, and I just think that he's just perfect. Kind of, I guess, the antithesis of everything else that everybody is doing. You know, it's lovely to see. If everybody was boring and PR drones, where would we be?
I know.
You've got to have the characters.
I relate to Fernando Alonso in the same way that I find myself increasingly relating to Thanos. I think that's about where I am. Catman, who have you got in defense of Prost? This is still round one, by the way.
Well, I've definitely lost this one because I have Mike Hawthorne.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, though.
Another one who looks like a villain.
Yeah, exactly. He's the Bond villain, isn't he? Just to get the picture up that he comes with, and it's absolutely incredible. Kind of the smarmy Bond villain. He's got a white cat on his on his lap.
The sunglasses. Okay, I thought he just had like two massive black eyes.
Really deep set eyes.
Yeah.
Well, not a driver I'm massively familiar with, Catman.
No. So Mike Hawthorne, for those who aren't familiar with him, won the World Championship in 1958. And he's got a top trumps rating of 92. But for me, I think that's a little high for him because he is the man who's won the World Championship with the least number of race victories. He only won 3 Grand Prix in his career.
No, that's Nico's dad.
Yeah.
Keke Rosberg won one race.
Won with one.
Yeah, but in terms of over his whole career, he only won 3 races in total.
How many races did Keke Rosberg win total?
Not sure.
Okay. Well, if you're not sure, now we have to look that up. Somebody furiously Google that.
More than one.
Yeah, but you're thinking of 1981, where Keke Rosberg only won 1 race to win the championship.
This is just reminding me, why isn't Keke Rosberg in this pack?
Keke has 5 in total.
Okay, so you're right, Catman, then. You are right. So he's a world championship with only 3 Grand Prix wins. World champion with 3 Grand Prix wins.
Yeah.
So he's 92 generous.
Yeah, I think it's quite generous. But he retired. He did a Rosberg and immediately retired after winning the championship. So he was the original Rosberg, if you will.
The original Rosberg. Okay, then in that case, that means that Chris Stevens is the first winner of Top Trumps. You win. So that means that you get to go next, Chris Stevens. So you not only get to be the first to announce your driver, but you also get to pick the category. So who's your next driver on the roster? Stop flicking through. I can see you cheating.
I'm not doing it.
Just pick the next one.
I went to the next one. I swear.
Who is it?
It is none other than Michael Schumacher.
Oh my goodness gracious. That's a fix. I saw you shuffling through.
Such a good... I didn't.
You want me to believe that you happen to have Prost, contender for greatest of all time, and then Michael Schumacher.
I shuffled them before we started.
Michael Schumacher. Now, when we talked about like this generational crossover between professional drivers, I don't think if I say Michael Schumacher was the first out-and-out professional athlete Formula One driver, not many people are going to argue.
No, I agree with that. I've said that before. He was the first one who came into Formula One with a level of professionalism that no one else had managed to do so, and that's why he was able to be Mr. Marathon in the car, basically, partly because he was an endurance racer as well before coming into Formula One.
Oh, is that right?
That was when Formula One was just so physically demanding because it was still mechanical. There was no power steering like you have now, manual gearboxes as well, when you throw on top the immense G forces that they were pulling as well. So that's he probably arrived in one of the most physical eras of Formula One with a level of fitness that no one else had seen.
Yeah, he used to travel with a gym in his later career, and he would have the humidity and temperature in the gym set to match the track that they were racing at, so that he could train in those conditions. So he was the first person properly fanatical about his fitness, and I think that was part of the reason. Okay, incredibly skilled driver, but I think you can be skilled to a level. If you're not fit enough to keep it going, then your level will drop. But he was able to be fit enough that he was 100% all the time, all the way through the races. Is why they talked about the qualifying laps for however many laps of the race and that kind of thing. So that's where Schumacher set the standards, and we have the drivers we have today with their fitness because of Schumacher.
Now, you might think that Schumacher is a fantastic card, but Silverstone starts 20. I know there are people in this pack with, considerably more than that, and only 3 wins at Silverstone as well out of those 20 starts. One of them being the very controversial coming into pit lane on the last lap to serve a stop-go penalty in 98.
I still find it amazing he kept that win. I can't believe he kept that.
Technically, they didn't break the rule.
You have to explain. You have to explain what happened.
I don't know what it is in enough detail to go through.
Oh, well, Catman does. Catman does.
I
can. Yep, I was there again. I was at Stoke Corner in the grandstand.
I was there, man. I was there, man.
So I was there in 1998 at the corner where he broke his leg, which was terrifying.
No,
99 when he broke his leg.
So was Brad.
Was he? Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, because he got into the Jordan hospitality, didn't he?
He got into the Jordan hospitality dressed as a driver and got interviewed as part of the press conference because he just bought the merch. But anyway.
That's amazing. But yeah, so what happened was he got a penalty because you have to serve your penalty. It was a drive-through penalty, and he had to serve it within 3 laps. But they delayed in giving it to him so that it was within 3 laps of the end of the race. So he decided to drive through the pits on the final tour, and in theory he was in the pit lane, so he was serving his penalty, and then crossed the finish line ahead of Mika Häkkinen. It was incredible, but that just shows, I think, not only the ruthlessness but also the calculating mind of Schumacher, which was just incredible. We talked about his fitness, and absolutely, but he had such a ability to be able to work around problems in the car and work around the strategy that, again, we hadn't seen before him.
Okay, so first thing is that Silverstone is sort of unique in that regard, which is that you've got 2 very slow turns after the pit lane entry. So you can kind of do that.
It wasn't like that back then.
This was the old pit lane.
Yeah,
it was the one out of Woodcote and coming out of Cops.
Yeah, just after Love
where the
Field.
support pits are now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because you used to have in that area, you used to have Bridge Corner rather than the whole arena complex. So yeah, it was a very different circuit back then. But
Since this is a
yeah.
Silverstone special, can I just take umbrage with anyone who sits there and says the old Silverstone layout was better? Because it
Oh, it's not.
No, yeah,
It's
obviously.
great. It was
Yeah.
it was a great circuit, and I mean, you can still drive it on things like iRacing. It is a great circuit, but they improved on it massively with the new layout, which is rare for when they change circuits around, for them to make them so much better. But Silverstone went from a great track to a legendary track.
Do you know why? Because they wanted motorcycle racing there, and that's why it's brilliant. But the thing is, I think Silverstone has been an amazing circuit in its many guises. When you look at the map of Silverstone over the years, it's had a lot of different variations, and they've all been spectacular. And I agree, the current one is the best. So I gotta pick something on this Schumacher card.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think my best. I'm gonna play up for the show a little bit because I do think my best shot at winning is the top trump rating, which is 98. But I'm not going to play the same.
Oh, okay. That's it. Thing is, if you were defending with this card, then you'd be vulnerable. But I think because you're leading with this card, I think you're entitled to go with the top trump rating.
Oh, okay.
or career championships, to be fair. Well, career championships is good. Career championships is decent.
There are people with more career championships in this pack, and I'm not going to run the risk of coming across one of you guys. Well, that is the one I was going to pick because I didn't want to do the top trump one.
Well, why not?
Twice, but okay, fine. I'll do it then. Okay. Fine. 98. Beat that.
Oh, darn. I thought.
Can I go next?
Yeah, I thought I was trying to. Did
Have you got Lewis Hamilton?
No,
I don't have Lewis Hamilton.
I was trying to goad Chris into doing the career championships because my card does have more career championships, but he's gone for top trump 98, which I think is fair.
Mine doesn't.
Catman, what have you
told me to do it,
I know. I was trying to get you to do championships. Go on then, Catman. Who have you got to defend?
So mine doesn't beat it, but I've got Nigel Mansell, who you were going to say that if he doesn't get higher than 98, he's got 92.
No! That is disgusting! Top trumps, no. Thank you for the cards, but no. How are you giving El Lion 92?
I think 92 is about right.
What?
I love Mansell. I think he's great, but it's more a case of like, for example, Hawthorne was too high. I think if Prost, what was Prost 94? No, Prost was 97.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I don't think Mansell was better than Prost. So I think that's quite a good place to be.
My specific bias here, sorry, Catman, my specific bias here is that I'm 43 years old. I got into F1 exactly as Nigel Mansell was the great British hero to cheer for. And then I went through, what was it, when he went to celebrate, but then knocked the fuel pump off?
Canada.
Yeah, Canada.
Turn the car off, coming around the final hairpin.
And then there was failed championships, and then obviously finally the championship, he got it. So yeah, I've got a massive bias here. And the fact that he pushed a Lotus over the start-finish line, no human can do that.
In like 43-degree
I think it was more like 55, actually. I think.
Like that, yeah. So it's like the hottest Grand Prix in history.
So we need to add at least 3 onto that, I think.
But the thing about Mansell is that, yes, I respect his place in history, but you're right. There were too many of those failed championship attempts. And the one he finally does it in at the height of Mansell Mania was in one of the best Grand Prix cars ever designed. If we're going to talk about car advantage, that W14B is one of the most legendary Formula One cars ever designed because it was so dang good and it was a plug and play car.
But that's where you talk about drivers getting what's owed to them.
Yes, that is very true. That is very true.
Yeah, he worked very hard.
Was he owed it? Really?
He definitely deserved one championship.
Yes, he did.
Yes, Nigel Mansell definitely deserved to be an F1 world champion. If it meant that he had to have all those failures where he probably should have won to finally win it in slightly easier fashion, I'm happy for Mansell.
How dare you?
The F1 balance aligned itself.
Catman.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget he lost a championship at Adelaide with a tyre blowout, and he was going to win that. So, he should have won at least one championship.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so
That is
it's not
true.
all in
Okay,
his
yeah.
thing. But yeah, so Nigel Mansell, I think the moustache gives him a 95 plus rating regardless.
Yeah.
So I think this is one card that I will definitely disagree with. But yeah,
Okay.
I lose.
Oh, you
I'm out.
lose as well. So my one is
Chat room, by the way. Chat room is
yeah.
also pointing out he won IndyCar the same year.
Oh,
No, it
there
was
you go.
1993 he won the IndyCar.
Oh,
so
never mind. Well, he still won IndyCar.
Back
yeah,
to back.
absolutely.
And I got
yeah,
asked
F1
on
then
a-
F1 then Indy back to back.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
I
and then
got
he came
asked-
back.
Yeah, I got asked about the comeback from IndyCar, and of course there was the infamous Fat McLaren, wasn't it? That's what everyone called it because he couldn't fit into the F1 car, and how standards have changed. But the fact is, you have to be very lithe for Formula One, and Formula One kind of took a jump forward in that respect. Come back from IndyCar in a relaxed state and couldn't get in the cockpit.
Yeah, but don't forget, he did win in 1994 in the Williams when he came to replace Senna, unfortunately, along with David Coulthard. But he won in Adelaide, I think it was.
Yeah, because Schumacher and Hill took each other out. What? Sorry. No, sorry. Hang on. Let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that.
Carefully.
Schumacher took Hill out, so he went on to then win the race.
Yeah, he won in France as well that year, I think.
Okay, so I've actually got Valentino Rossi here, and this is why I was trying to goad Chris into doing career championships
Because I know he's got more.
Because Rossi's got 9. So this is the first non-F1 entry, but I can accept it because he is a legitimate motorsport legend.
Well, I think you'd have to divide his stats by 2 because he's only got 2 wheels.
There you go. So that's fair. So 4.5. And
No, he's a 4-wheel racer now. He's doing races for BMW at Le Mans.
He did Le Mans 24. He did Le Mans 20, not Le Mans 24 hours. Spa 24 hour. Antonio interviewed him.
Le Mans.
Oh,
He did Le
really?
Mans this year as well.
Yeah,
Antonio was interviewing him.
his car ended up in the wall, so then it had only 2 wheels then too.
No, I will say that Ballet does have a tendency still to throw away the good results.
Well, he tested a Ferrari Formula One car in the 2000s when Schumacher was there, and apparently he was very close to Schumacher's time after a very limited amount of time in the car.
Yeah,
so
It
the
doesn't
guy's
surprise me at all.
got
'cause the
talent no
guy's
matter
just-
what he throws himself.
So
in.
Well,
it wasn't inconceivable that Valentino Rossi could have ended up in F1. Like that was a serious conversation.
Because he's he wasn't just a 2-wheel guy, and this isn't like his first 4-wheel experience going to Le Mans either, and moving into GTs in the last couple of years. He did the Monza Rally for years. That special event at Monza at the end of the year as well. He was doing that for a long time, so he's very diverse racing talent, I would say.
All right. So Alex, who have you got in defense of? We're all on a glorious defeat here, but who have you got?
But what's his rating?
92, the same as the year he won.
No, for Valet.
Oh, Valley.
96.
Ooh,
96.
Very close.
Oh.
I've lost I've had Fernando Alonso and Valentino Rossi, and I've lost both of them to Prost and Schumacher. I have been robbed.
I kind of feel like Valet should just be a 99. Just really, but
Who does
God,
Van
Alex, what
Gien
have you got?
I've got Mark Webber.
Mark,
Oh,
but that's good. That's a good time to get Mark Webber.
But actually, it's an interesting conversation because Mark Webber is also 92. And does anybody think Mark Webber is as good as Nigel Mansell?
No,
Yes,
no,
that's
not a
so
chance.
sorry,
Yes.
Top Trumps.
Yes,
Okay,
no,
no.
100%.
No,
yes.
Stop. Let's hear from the idiot, Chris Stevens. Come on.
Right, we've just spent 20 minutes on this show talking about how Lance Stroll is better than anyone from 30 years prior his time.
But
Mark Webber is 100% better than what Nigel Mansell would have been.
But that's not the comparison.
No. So
the
yes,
comparison
I
is to their peers.
No, yeah, I agree. Mark Webber would have probably beaten Nigel Mansell one-on-one as teammates in a car.
You asked the question, who thinks he's as good as...
No, who thinks he did as well? Isn't it? The top Trump rating is how well you did in your career.
That's not what Jeansy asked. But no, yes, if that's the premise we're going for, then yeah, because frankly, I think he should have won the championship in 2010.
And he balls it all up in Korea.
And Turkey.
Well, the thing is, no, Turkey was...
Turkey wasn't his fault. Turkey
was
his fault.
Seb's fault.
I was triggering.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. I say that Webber should have won the title in 2010. He only won 2 Grand Prix, and then I think about Seb.
Really?
Obviously, they crashed They crashed in Turkey. Seb had an engine issue in Bahrain that cost him the win. He had a brake failure in Australia that cost him the win. He had the engine failure in Korea that cost him the win as well. Like
Seb amazingly won that title in 2010.
Didn't lead it until he won it.
Exactly.
Did not lead the championship all year.
And the only reason, and Ferrari messed it up because they were too busy watching Webber rather than watching Vettel. And then Alonso got stuck behind Petrov.
Vettel was like the outsider. It was fully Fernando and Mark were the targets.
That's so easily forgotten.
I know. Yeah. It's crazy because even Lewis had an outside shot and Jensen had just been eliminated from mathematical contention. Like, we forget, we had 3 teams and 5 drivers going for the title that year.
Yeah.
Mark was excellent at the Porsche Endurance racing as well as at Le Mans and stuff.
Yes, he was.
So
he famously had the flip at Le Mans, didn't he? In the Mercedes car flipped going down the straight. The aerodynamics were wrong on the car. The car took off and flew off into the trees.
Then he flipped it in Valencia as well.
So the common thing, if you want to put down Vettel, is to go, well, all his championships were only against Mark Webber. But could Mark Webber just be one of those drivers who came in? I mean, he was relatively old in his career. He spent a lot of time getting to F1, and then did he start at Minardi?
Yes.
Yeah.
So by the time he got given a winning car, yes, it's a bit like Jensen, really. I think they were even like a similar age by the time they finally got given a car that was capable of winning races on a regular basis. Because you think he was at Minardi, he was at Jaguar, which was obviously a troubled program. He was at Williams at kind of the wrong time as well.
He was 34 in 2010.
There you go. Right. So that's not what you'd call peak F1 age, is it? No, I know you're going to look at me very grumpily about that, but it's just a fact. And then obviously when he joined Red Bull, it wasn't a championship winning outfit straight away.
Well, it was Jaguar, wasn't it, when he joined?
Yep.
Yes,
did he go Jaguar or Williams first?
No, he definitely raced as Jaguar. I think because he had that
Williams and Jaguar.
Yeah, he had that.
Williams and Jaguar.
It was Jaguar when he had that big Interlagos smash with Fernando Alonso.
Oh, yep. Fernando Alonso's wheel. Yeah,
I think that's worth googling as well because that was such a big hit on the.
Is that the one in the last corner?
Yeah, no, it was actually
And they took the win away from Fisichella, didn't they?
Kimi Räikkönen got the win, and then Kimi Räikkönen very gamefully awarded the trophy back to Fisichella in the next round.
Spanners, we got it the wrong way round. Weber went into the wall, and Fernando hit Mark's wheel.
Right, there you go. Yeah, but it was a huge smash. It's one to look at. And like Alonso was fully just like limping, like war wound, trying to get back to the pit. So I think Mark Webber, he made a great fist of that career. I genuinely think that he outdrove himself. He outdrove the circumstances he was in, and he found himself in a potentially championship-winning car. In a way, it was like a dream movie career for a driver that wouldn't necessarily naturally have been there and got a lot closer than anyone might have credited him to get.
And he was not bad for a number 2 driver.
Not bad. Oh, okay. So the not bad for a number 2 driver was basically Vettel ended up breaking a wing. No, yeah.
It broke by itself.
Yeah. And then they swapped and gave him Mark Webber's wing.
At Silverstone.
At Silverstone in 2010.
Yep. So that's why. So when I was talking about Vettel's wins earlier, they were on the front row together. And you could argue that the difference between them in qualifying was the difference of the front wing. It was like a tenth of a second or something, right? So that was when Mark kind of quite aggressively pushed Seb out at the first corner. And so Seb goes into the runoff and then suddenly picks up a puncture on some debris or something. And it's like, you couldn't write this script as well. He had a really good moment in the press conference after qualifying when he was asked about the front wing situation. Yeah. And he just sort of leaned forward and went, I think the team is happy with the result today. And then took his thing of water and he slammed it down
on the ground. Yeah, that is classic. That is absolutely classic. But I don't, if I defend Mark Webber if he needs defending,
So you don't need to defend Mark Webber. I think everything you said there is absolutely justified and correct.
My one thing would be, I think people underestimate the amount that the teams will have one car set up one way and another car set up another way. I think that Sebastian Vettel was absolutely favoured, and I will say my opinion would be that Mark Webber did not have the same opportunity that Vettel had. Alex, then Catman.
In Mark Webber's book, he basically says he wasn't as good, and he probably wasn't.
Well,
as
what
committed.
Does he know?
He probably wasn't as committed. He definitely wasn't as committed as Seb, and he knows he wasn't that top tier, and he admits that in his book.
Yeah, and I would say that the final fact for Mark Webber is that he got Oscar Piastri out of that Alpine contract, so we owe him a lot for that.
Oh yeah, good chance.
But also, like, he is now like one of the best pundits and commentators out there as well. So that's really cool. But we lose. We all lose to Chris. Chris, you have won yet another round. Which does mean, Chris, that you also get to go next. So, what have you got? What have you got for us?
You lot were all saying, "Oh, the older people is obviously a better card," but you're all wishing you were 90 now. I have Sir Jackie Stewart.
So you think you're going old? Is that what it is? So
I'm gonna go for the year born on this one. 1939.
Oh, interesting.
A 3-time world champion.
So Jackie Stewart is probably, I don't think this is unfair, he's probably most famous in Formula One for like changing the safety of modern Formula One and the amount of lives he saved by constantly campaigning for, no, we don't need to lose a Grand Prix driver every few races.
Absolutely. I think he was really affected by the loss of his teammate Francois Sever in his final years at Tyrrell. And Sever was meant to be his successor. He was training him up as his protege. And then, unfortunately, he lost his life in an accident in the car. And I think from then he kind of went on a campaign. He's responsible for all sorts of different things. You know, just think of the cars in the 70s where, you know, their heads are sticking up. There's no safety at all. To now there's seat belts, there's high cockpit sides. You know, he would have been the champion of the Halo if it was around at the time. So, you know, he's quite an incredible person and responsible for a lot of lives being saved.
And he was ridiculed for it as well. He was called a coward and all these different things. You know, it's a man's sport. You got to be brave and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, there's no need to take more risk than we actually need to. But he also did this while being the best in the sport at the time as well, because Jackie, his sporting career started shooting. He was part of a rifle club, and then he just got involved in motorsport. I can't remember how. I've listened to his book about 4 times. I should remember this. And he got into it, and he just adapted to it, and he was the best at his time, and he pushed everything forward, and then wanted things to be safer. And up until the last 10 years, Jackie was a hero of mine. He's gone a little bit old manny crazy the last 10 years and says some bizarre things now. But I got to meet him at Daytona Milton Keynes once when he was there with his grandson. He was gracious enough to give me some time, and he was he was an absolute icon. At the sport
I walked past him,
and we have spraying champaign because of Jackie as well.
Is that right?
It was an accident. It didn't mean to happen. They gave him a bottle of champagne that was open when he was standing in the car with the wreath over his head, and he banged it against the side of the car, and it started to come out. And he put his finger over it. It started to spray, and he just continued to spray it.
Amazing.
And that's why we have spraying champagne.
I hope that's not an apocryphal tale. I hope that is true. What I was
in
saying
his book, it's got to be true, right?
The safety stuff, I love the safety side of things, and I hate all that. Oh, it's a man's sport stuff, because I used to have that in like regimental football. Someone would slide in from 10 meters away, clip your ankles out, and you go, "What are you doing? You're trying to break my ankles. I've got work tomorrow." And you go, "Yeah, it's a man's game. It's a man's game, innit?" All that stuff is an excuse to either be a thug or not care about safety. I don't care about that bravado side. I don't need to see Romain Grosjean bursting into flames for it to be entertaining. So I think for that, we do owe Sir Jackie Stewart an awful lot. All the survival cell stuff. And now when I'm watching with my son, you know, a driver will like fly into a barrier. And in fact, the Grosjean thing is such a good example. He flew in there, and I just said he was like cheering and whooping because he's grown up watching an F1 where you can crash and nothing happens, nothing bad happens. And I turned to him and I said, son, like, I watched the Senna crash. I've seen, you know, Jules Bianchi. I think, you know, the driver is in trouble there. And then when he leapt out the flames, you go, oh, crap, how did he leap out the flames? Well, it's because of the work of people like Sir Jackie Stewart, and he's certainly sort of spearheaded that. Catman.
Absolutely. And you can say all of these things about how he spearheaded the safety aspects of things, but he was also, another interesting Silverstone fact is that he won the 1969 British Grand Prix by lapping the entire field, everyone up to second place.
Wow.
Which is amazing. It's one of the most dominant performances, but he also has one of the closest wins at Monza, which was like 0.000000000 something. It was something ridiculous. It was like 4 of them wide across the.
There's an amazing image if you look for it.
Yeah, it's 71, I want to say, and I think this was when they were still using the banking, as well, potentially as well. So, yeah. There's a couple of really great comments as well from the live chat as well. Mark says, Tartan rating infinity. And Stuart, is there a length of sideburns category? Because he has got some choppy chops.
Also, it was suggested that you've messed up by not going for Silverstone starts here because
maybe. Let's see.
Silverstone starts.
Think Sir Jackie is one of the older people in this deck. I mean, he's 85. So
okay,
I think...
What did you go for? You went for Yearborn.
I went for Yearborn, which is 1939.
And I appreciate that is a little bit of a high risk one. And so actually, you aren't going to win this one. So I am going to beat you in Yearborn because I have got one of the drivers that is considered by a lot of hipsters to be the greatest driver of all time. And I have to say, it's mainly 20-somethings that say this, and I have no way to judge, but Jim Clark is my card. So I do beat you because Jim Clark was born in 1936. If you'd have gone for top Trump rating, he had the same rating as Jackie Stewart at 95. And so you would have only beaten me, I think, on Silverstone start.
Oh, Karen was right. I should have gone for Silverstone starts. Dang it.
So I don't know anything about Jim Clark's career, except that I think that people who are difficult and contrary do tend to say that he's the greatest of all time. The sort of people that say that Jim Clark is the greatest of all time are also people who don't own jeans, who claim not to own a television, and are just generally just feel like they're better than everyone. I think, Catman, people who rate Jim Clark as the greatest of all time love the smell of their own farts.
I love that. But so the argument for Jim Clark is that he was an engineer as much as a driver because he spearheaded the Lotus campaigns, didn't he? And he was very, very, responsible for driving the direction of that team along with Colin Chapman in terms of lighter is better. And my Lord, we need that right now with the cars that we currently have.
My goodness, yes.
But yeah, so he was not only a phenomenal talent, always sideways, driving incredibly. And don't forget, if we're comparing people, he was up against the likes of Graham Hill and that sort of thing, who are also very highly rated. But again, possibly you could say slightly gentlemanly. So yeah, I don't know where to sit him. I'm not entirely convinced that I can go as high as that.
So I've seen a lot of people sharing, obviously, Jim Clark stuff and the cars that he was driving. And these drivers used to drive like a range of different cars. And they'd show him driving sideways through a corner. But that's kind of just how those cars had to be driven, surely. They weren't downforce cars, but they look spectacular now compared to F1.
But, okay, those cars were dangerous. They were, what was it, fuel tanks on wheels, so they were dangerous to drive. That doesn't necessarily mean they were difficult to drive because they're on three-ply tires or whatever it was, so they haven't got much grip, so they can't go very fast through the corners. Driving a modern F3 car is probably more difficult and more of a challenge than driving one of those cars, especially fast, because they're going not as quick through the corners. The other thing that people talk about with Jim Clark was not only was he no, we're talking Jim Clark, not John Surtees. I was going to talk about motorbikes, but no, that's John Surtees. But no, so I've had many an argument on the Twitters with Jim Clark fans. There is one particular person on Twitter called Jim Clark, and it doesn't matter what you give them, they have an answer for everything that you argue with them with. But at the end of the day, as we said about some of the earlier guys earlier in this conversation, they're not as good as the drivers we have today.
It's become an identity for a certain subset of like F1 Twitter. I'm not attacking Jim Clark and his career. I'm specifically attacking that subset of F1 Twitter. Who's next? So Jim Clark at the moment is winning on year born. So who's up next? Who have you got, Alex?
I have Graham Hill.
Wait. Do I win?
Ooh,
no, you don't, because he was born in 1929. Actually, Chris was talking about Silverstone starts. How many starts did Jackie
26.
See, Graham Hill has 37 starts.
Oh, wow.
Dang, so I would have lost with that as well.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got...
Interestingly, top Trump rating was all tied for those three as well.
95 for Graham on
No
that.
way.
So Graham was a legendary driver. He was Mr. Monaco. He famous. I mean, I know this is about Silverstone, but he won the most until Senna came around. Won the most Grand Prix around Monaco. Obviously spawned Damon Hill, so the first father and son to be world champions.
So, yeah.
Obviously, it's now Nico and Keke are the second, but they were the first. More the famous British boating clubs. Colours on their helmets, but yeah, he was the antithesis.
Is that where that's from? So that helmet design, the black with the six little white
oars. Those are oars.
Are those oars? Are they?
Yeah.
So that is my all-time favorite helmet livery. Like, to me, that's the most iconic F1 helmet design ever.
Yeah, it's beautiful, absolutely stunning. Just simple, and a family dynasty. It's perfection, absolute perfection.
But the other key fact with Graham Hill is he's the only driver to ever win the infamous Triple Crown.
Oh, the completely made-up Triple Crown.
It's not made up, Spanners. It has been... I
Technically, everything is made up.
Yeah, well, hang on. Wait. My question is, before he won it, was it a thing? Or is it just been a thing because he did it? Oh,
so for people who don't know, the Triple Crown is winning the Monaco Grand Prix, the Indy 500, and the Le Mans 24-hour. Now, in those days, I actually think it was less difficult to win it because you could go and do 3-4 different series throughout a year. But now, if you sign a Lewis Hamilton or a Max Verstappen, can I go and race Le Mans? No, unless your name's Nico Hulkenberg. It's like, okay, yeah, we don't care about you. You can go off and go and win. But yeah, you're not going to let your star driver go and do one of the most dangerous races in the world, are you?
No, absolutely. And it's like with you were talking about Surtees, lovely man. I met him at Buckmore Park once, but so he was doing
that's his track as well.
Exactly, yeah.
He used to own it, yeah.
He did, yeah. It was renowned for winning on bikes and in cars, but as you rightly said, that it was easier to make the jump between the two. And that's a wonderful segue onto my card, who started in motorbike racing as well, and is the son of Alex Van Geens. I have Damon Hill.
You got no way. We've got the two Hills.
That's brilliant.
Well, he's not older. Graham Hill.
No. Unfortunately, I lose on pretty much every single thing on here. I don't think I could have beaten anybody because year born 1960.
No.
Silverstone starts 33, so Alex would have beaten me on that one. Silverstone wins 5.
4.
Oh, I might have won. Excellent.
Oh, 7.
No, so I wouldn't want that.
So I wouldn't want that. Career Championships 1. Admittedly,
2.
it was F1, but it was. That's literally it. And top Trumps rating of 91.
91, that's low.
Oh, it's fair though, isn't it?
Compared to his dad.
Spanners, look, we grew up with Damon Hill being
this is the thing.
Our hero, didn't we?
Yeah.
In the Williams,
Murray
and the
Walker
Jordan.
cheering him on.
Yeah, I've got a lump in my throat. But it was but he wasn't that good.
Chris,
I'm honest.
you can have Nigel or Damon. You can't have both of them.
Really? Okay, so if I had to
I'll choose
choose
Nigel.
Oh, really? That's interesting. So, gun to my head, I am picking Damon Hill because that is the one I was most emotionally attached to as a teenager, and also like, oh, good, Alex is nodding as well. We
Me too.
agree.
Me too. But if I had to pick who was the better, I would say Nigel. But if I had to pick who I'm more emotionally attached to and who I've got posters up on my wall and model helmets in the background, I would say Damon.
Absolutely,
Damon is the luckiest F1 driver in the world.
Okay.
Damon found himself. Damon found himself with a entirely dominant car, a car that, and that's what won him that title.
Well, hang on a minute, Damon Hill.
He then got spanked by his rookie teammate the following season.
This is slander, by the way. I know.
No, he didn't.
I know legally this is slander, by the way. So
and also in a car that Senna probably could have beaten Schumacher in pretty convincingly. Damon only just lost that title.
I'm going to cut you off there, Catman. Get in there.
I'm going to cut him off as well.
Yell at that man.
And I've been faster than Damon Hill round Palmer Sport in a JPLM.
Yeah, because he's 70.
So I'll pick you up on the fact that he got spanked by his teammate. He did not, because he was in 1996 against Villeneuve. Then he got exiled to Arrows and was up against Pedro Diniz. So Villeneuve beat him in 97 because he was in a dog of a car where he nearly won at Hungary, by the way, which was one of the best cars. Yeah. Sorry, I'm shouting. You asked me to shout.
Sorry, you're right.
I remember that race at Hungaroring, and he was on to win. Wasn't there some mechanical failure in the end?
He's something went wrong, and Villeneuve overtook him with
on the grass
laps to go. Yeah. That was good. But let's be honest, he probably should have won 94. So if you're going to take 96 off him for having an amazing car and no teammate, then
and can we just say, like, obviously, like, there's tragedy in 94. But if you'd have said, okay, in 94, he's just the lead driver from the beginning, that gives him an extra, push into the season. And let's not forget, the move that wiped him out of the 1994 championship finale was an absolute cynical cheat from Michael Schumacher. Also,
wasn't Schumacher banned for 2 races in 1994? Yes,
because of traction control.
Well, there you go. So that's just more cheating. That's not...
But he still won.
Yeah, because he had traction control.
Yes, because he had traction control. And I think it's so accepted now that he had traction control and his teammate didn't. It was Verstappen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Jos Verstappen.
Jos
the boss.
Yeah, exactly. So there was one car...
Didn't quite have the clout then that he has now.
They didn't even give it to his teammate. But I think people will accept in the paddock now that Schumacher had traction control. People will accept that move to basically, he had an off and then decided to just cut across the track and wipe Damon Hill out and break his wishbone. That's cheating. You're not allowed to do that. And the stewards absolutely failed in not just going, you cheated, you're disqualified from this race.
Things have changed in Formula One. Oh, no, hang on. No, they haven't.
Shh. I've had too much.
Absolute favourite lines of commentary ever is from when Schumacher tried to do the same thing to Villeneuve in 97.
Martin Brundle.
He says, that didn't work. You hit the wrong part of it, my friend.
Yes.
Wes has corrected me. He said that the ban was for ignoring a black flag, which I also think might have been at Silverstone. Silverstone's really popping up here, which is great. Yeah. But the traction control thing wasn't punished. They just let them get away with that.
But Spanners, do I have to remove my Sir Jackie card from the pack now, or does it just go to?
It's been
rip it up.
Did I win then? No,
I won.
You won with. Mr.
I won with Graham
Hill. Excellent. Okay, then. So it's 2 wins for Chris and 1 win for Alex. I mean, we're an hour in. How many...
I've got 4 cards left.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is so much
fun.
We could speed this up a bit if we wanted to.
So I think let's just have one. No, we could speed it up to try and get through the whole game, but let's not. Let's have one more round properly, how we want it to be, how it has been. So Alex, you pick your card now. Tell me, who have you drawn?
I have Jack Sears.
Okay.
Ooh, of the trophy fame.
I know nothing about Jack Sears.
Oh, the Jack Sears Trophy. Anybody
Yeah.
who watches the
Shall I, as I
touring
know nothing about him, shall I just read his fact file?
Yeah, go for it.
Sears was the first ever British saloon car champion. In 1965, he retired from racing after a serious crash at Silverstone while testing the Lotus 40. This then saw Jack going from cars to farming, being drafted to help run the farm at Silverstone.
All right. I think we've dug deep. And I nearly took drivers like this out of the pack that I have never heard of.
But that's a cool fact. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. And then they went on to go and run the farm at Silverstone. That's actually quite a cool fact.
It is.
And he was
Chris,
born in 1930, and that's what I'm going for.
what's the Jack Sears Trophy for again, Chris? Do you remember?
Top
I can look it up.
rookie?
Yeah, I think that's right, isn't it? It's either
Yeah.
that or top independent. I can't remember which one it is. But yeah, in British touring cars.
No, I think that's just called the Independent Trophy.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I mean, to be honest with you, Catman, I haven't been watching the touring cars this year because it's a bit disappointing, to be honest. But anyway.
Yep, that's a tangent. Okay, so who can beat that? The category is year born 1930. Who have you got there, Catman?
I could have beaten you on virtually everything else because I have Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, no.
So I have the best card in the pack, most likely.
And he
because
got beat
yeah,
by
exactly.
someone we've never heard of.
Yeah. So he was
Batman.
born in 1985. He had 22 Silverstone starts and 11 wins, which is a pretty good hit rate of
Yeah.
50%, I would say.
So our accusations of British bias are not going to be helped at all by the top Trump rating of 99.
But we should talk about Lewis
Hamilton.
Hamilton because we
Yeah,
never
absolutely.
talk about him on this podcast.
Yeah.
We never mention Lewis Hamilton. So
Who is he?
Well, to be honest, I don't think we've really done a deep dive overall like Lewis Hamilton career chat for ages. Obviously, bits of it come up here and there. But whenever any people like accuse me of being like a bog-eyed Lewis Hamilton fan and biased, I think, man, on the podcast, race by race over the last 3 years, all I've really talked about is the things that have been going wrong and what I want to see more. So I don't know. I will defend myself from that criticism, Catman, by saying that we've broadly been slagging Lewis Hamilton off, even though he is absolutely my favourite driver.
Oh, absolutely. He is one of the main reasons I stuck with Formula One. I was at the British Touring Cars at Brands Hatch a long time ago, and I was watching the Formula 3 support race, and there was this guy in a silver and black car with a yellow helmet, and I was like, who's this dude? Because he's just beaten the whole field by a country mile, and it was Lewis Hamilton. So, and yeah, he's just absolute trailblazing. He's had to deal with a lot of adversity in his career. He's got to the right places. You were talking about Alonso not going to the right teams or destructing teams when he gets there. He's done the complete opposite and been able to revive teams and get to the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And he was a rookie, don't forget, fighting for a title and missed it by a point.
Yeah. If we're going to be hypercritical here, right? Please, I am the biggest Lewis Hamilton fan that there is. I would claim that title. No, Alex is going to claim that title off me. But you know, when people talk about the ruthlessness of Verstappen, right, and the way he he clattered out Lando Norris in the last race, and before that there was loads of moving in the braking zone, all that kind of ruthless stuff. The big defense of him has been, well, the greats did that. Schumacher did that. Verstappen did that. Nobody in that defense has gone, Hamilton does that, because Hamilton is so gentlemanly to an absolute flaw. Like, he should not have been as gentlemanly as he's been.
Lewis has risen above all of these kind of tactics.
Tropes.
And he is probably one of the most honourable champions
To a
in
fault.
Formula One.
But
Yeah,
is that
yeah,
good?
probably. Well,
It
in 21 for sure, 100%.
There was one that I get thrown at me when everybody comes up with this. They go, oh, well, don't forget he lied about doing something
No, but
on
he
the
did do
safety
that.
car in Australia.
That's true.
He did do that, but he was a young boy and his team told him to. So we can't hold that too much against
No,
him.
he's
Other
not.
than
He,
that,
isn't
he's
a,
been...
he obviously isn't a saint. But
No,
there have
But
been.
you talk about to a fault. You know, I can't remember, 17 or 18 in Hungary. He was chasing down the Ferraris for a championship, and he told the team he was quicker than Bottas. And he's like, I think I'm quicker. Let me pass. If I don't pass them, he can have the place back. Now, I don't think anybody else in his position fighting for a championship would have let Bottas back through. But no, on the last lap, on the last corner, he stops, lets Bottas go through, and lets Bottas have his podium. That is the honour of the man. And it is to a fault, because he does cost himself. If he'd have lost the championship by the 3 or 4 points that he lost through that race, that would have been
a fault. Yeah. There's a bigger flaw in his career trajectory, which is that he doesn't openly push for being the number one driver. And I think that's genuine. I think he thinks, I'll just go up against my teammate and I'll back myself to beat them. I don't want preferential treatment. And I think that has disadvantaged him, because I think Vettel would definitely want preferential treatment. I think every Ferrari number one has preferential treatment. I think Red Bull operate in that way. And Lewis Hamilton has almost been, on face value, foolish to not push for that in his contracts. He should be, in his championship status, say, well, I'm a champion. If you want to sign me, I want preferential treatment. And you go, right, against George Russell, that's a classic where his career status is much bigger than George Russell. He should absolutely have a number one contract there, where George Russell went into the team but should always be yielding to Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, and he should have had that with Bottas. And that's what Perez has with Verstappen. He should have had that. And he's going to go to Ferrari with Leclerc with nothing like that in his contract. It's going to be a completely fair fight. And my goodness gracious, if there's one thing I learned from the military, is you never, ever get into a fair fight. You always make sure you've got 3 times the amount of men. You've got 3 times the amount of firepower. And that is something that Lewis Hamilton has missing from his arsenal.
I think he does have 3 times the firepower, because he is that talented and has that much belief in himself that he can go up against anybody. The 3 years he was with Jenson Button, for me, were some of the best of Formula One, because watching a British team with 2 amazing British drivers in it fighting for titles was just so much fun. Admittedly, he clattered into Massa for most of the time.
A lot.
But, no, that was really good. The one thing that I've loved through his career as well is that whenever he wins, especially when he was younger, he just seemed so happy about it. Like, he was always just the biggest smile on his face. He was always it was just like a little boy winning for the first time, even though he was in his 3rd, 4th, 5th championship. He was still that little boy. And I absolutely loved that.
Compare that to Max Verstappen now, who looks like he can't wait to get on the plane home or get on his sim rig. He looks so bored.
He does seem more interested in his sim racing than he does in Formula One.
Yeah, of course he is.
I honestly, it's mental, that whole kind of thing. But I commend Lewis on that kind of stuff. He wears his heart very much on his sleeve, and he can't hide his emotions. You know exactly what he's thinking at every single step, every single moment of whether that guy's driving or whether that guy's standing in front of a camera. And I mean, it's the whole reason we've known the Mercedes has been rubbish the last couple of seasons, because you look at him in testing and he looks absolutely miserable. And, he's a born winner, and born winners don't like losing.
And he stands up for people who can't stand up for themselves. So if you look at what he's done to achieve what he's achieved in the sport that he's in, and also championing Black Lives Matter and the rainbow helmets, all of these things, it's been absolutely incredible to watch him be able to do what he does with such humility, and then be able to champion and show his support for these people, where he's been criticized very heavily for doing so, but he continues to do so. And it's fantastic to see.
My favorite thing is like, oh, well, you're not going to wear that rainbow helmet in Saudi, are you? Not only did he wear it, he bloody won with it. Same in Qatar. So that's just fantastic for me.
Ugh, listen to you lot wanting people to be treated fairly and recognized.
I know. So is Jeansy won?
Yeah, no, there's 2 more. Well, because he's won against the Hamilton thing, but I think me and you still have cards.
So so he hasn't got me on year 1. I was hoping you were going to go with Silverstone starts, because I've got Jason Plato.
Ah, interesting.
He has 79 Silverstone starts.
Yeah, I wouldn't have beat you on that. He's definitely not as old as Jack Sears, though.
No, he definitely isn't. He was born in 67.
So every time touring cars goes to Silverstone, they do 3 races in a weekend. So it's hardly there.
Well, there you go. That's not particularly F1 relevant, but my one is I do lose as well. But I think this is an interesting kind of left field one. I have John Watson, and this comes up in conversations. And
better commentator than driver.
Top Trump rating of 89 in this field is fairly respectable. 0 championship wins, 1 Silverstone win, and only 12 Silverstone starts. But he is a well-regarded driver.
89? I think that's a bit high.
Explain yourself.
He was always kind of a decent midfield runner. He was never a top fight for a championship, as your stats prove, fight for a championship kind of driver. And as I think I said when I cut over you before, he's a better commentator than he is a driver.
Well, what's interesting is I'm looking at I have 2 touring car drivers in my hand, and obviously Jason Plato is like a legend of the British Touring Car Championship. His rating is 81. So what they've clearly done is that, well, obviously the F1 drivers are going to be better than any touring car driver, which is fair, actually.
Guys, this has been absolutely fantastic. So Alex Van Gien wins. So it's 2-2 between Van Gien and Chris Stevens.
We need a shootout round.
Oh, and that's interesting. Okay, let's do it.
Let's make this super quick.
Yeah. No.
We should have 3 cards remaining, right, Jeansy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Spanners.
So we'll do.
I think you should just pick. You should pick a stat, and we get to pick out of our 3, whichever one we think has the best shot at winning.
Okay, let me do like the game show host thing. Okay. It's 2-2 between Alex Van Gien and Chris Stevens. So let's head on over to the final round penalty shootout. And in the format that I just invented and created by myself, I'm going to select a category and we're going to see which of the 2 competitors wins out. And I can see them both shaping up to cheat so badly, and I have no idea. Put your cards up like that. Okay, point to the card that you're going to reveal.
Oh, no, I thought we get to pick the best.
No.
We get to pick the stat. That's what Chris said.
I think you should pick the stat, and then we get of the 3 cards we have remaining.
That's interesting. Okay, we can do that, and then right, nice. Okay, so present your champion at the same time. After the count of 3, I want you to show me the card you're selecting for Silverstone wins. 1, 2, 3. Van Gien is showing me. Read out, please.
Ayrton
Senna. How many wins for Ayrton Senna?
Ayrton Senna has 9, but you got bloody John Surtees.
No, wait, John Surtees, 16 wins, baby!
Oh, my goodness. Because John Surtees wins, that includes motorcycle victories as well.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Doesn't count. Pick a different card.
No, 1-0 to Chris Stevens. 1-0 to Chris Stevens. All right. So then, if we go for the next category, which is...
So now we have to get rid of that card.
You have to get rid of that card. It's gone.
Okay.
You cannot use Senna again.
Oh, this is super intense.
What's wrong, Catman?
There's 2 cards left.
Nothing's wrong. I just want to quickly jump in and say the reason why Jensen Button isn't in this pack is because he never finished on the podium at all at Silverstone. Never.
Wow. Never?
Yeah. Never.
Yeah.
So that's why you won't find him in here. Anyway, carry on.
He's not a Silverstone legend.
No.
I was just say, this is like a penalty shootout.
Yeah, it is like a penalty shootout. You're 1-0 up, Chris. And okay. Okay, so the next...
Sorry, can I just stop you for 2 seconds? In the chat, someone's saying what Senna's rating? Senna's rating was 98.
90. That's decent. So that's the second highest.
Same as Sterling Moss.
I can't help but feel that is Senna's personality and charisma coming through, because you can't rate him higher than Prost. That's a whole nother fight, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's an episode in itself.
Okay, so we do a dedicated Prost versus Senna episode. This is the Top Trumps episode. Okay, so the next rating I'm going to go for, guys, is Top Trump total rating. Who are you picking?
Oh, no.
Who are you picking?
Oh, no.
Read it out. Alex, read it out. Say who it is.
Jorge Lorenzo, 91.
No, come on. James Hunt, 90.
Hunt 90.
Oh, that's
for
high for Hunt.
It's Jorge Lorenzo at 91. That is outrageous.
I mean, if you put him in the MotoGP field, probably second or third greatest driver of all time.
if you put him in the field, he races in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So James Hunt, 90. I mean, he had a good story, and he had a pinnacle
Yeah,
to
I
that
don't know
story.
if he was...
90. I mean, James Hunt is more alongside kind of, Jenson Button,
Yep.
Nico Rosberg.
No,
Kako
lower than that.
Rosberg.
Lower than them.
Really?
Lower
Lower.
than them. Yeah,
Lower,
yeah.
100.
But again, he won in a season where his main rival nearly died, missed a whole bunch of races,
Yeah.
and still only just won because Nicky pitted at the end.
In the film,
frankly-
in Rush, you're supposed to be cheering for James Hunt, I think. But I completely was cheering for Lauda in that
Me too.
film. Yeah.
But also, Jorge's should be way higher. His should be like a 97. His should be up there with Rossi. Because he's the kid who came in and started beating Rossi.
Hang on, what's Rossi's stats? Who's got Rossi?
Someone else had Rossi.
I had
Well,
Rossi. I lost with Rossi, unfortunately.
Everybody saw that amazing race. I know this is bike racing, but we're between Rossi and Lorenzo, where on the last lap they swapped positions like 10 times.
Even I've seen that. That was
Yeah,
incredible.
exactly. Everyone.
Then
I used to
Rossi does
watch
him at
during
the
those
last
days.
corner.
Yeah, incredible
They,
stuff.
they drive under each other when there's no space for that to happen. It's why I find bike racing so crazy, is because I don't understand the physics.
Okay, so it's one each. Okay, you're ruining the game.
Last
The game
card.
is the
We're
most
down-
important.
last card
down to the last card.
shootout.
So your fates are in my hands. Okay,
I'm
so
going to lose.
the stats I'm going to go for here are career championships.
Ooh.
Okay, great. Stop. Chris, who have you got?
I've got Colin Turkington.
Oh, so that's a bit more of an unrealized champion. But four career
He has
championships.
got 4 championships.
And I have Derek Warwick, who has 2.
Yes!
Chris Stevens wins. But,
Thank you, Colin.
But Derek
Derek
Warwick has
bloody
probably
Warwick.
influenced more championships. So
That's very true.
Sorry, that was
that was really
uncontrollable.
sorry about that. Anyway, well done, Chris Stevens, the undisputed champion of Top Trumps. And thank you so much to Top Trumps and Silverstone Museum for sending us those cards and trusting us to represent their brand. It's been absolutely fantastic to play that game, and you can go and get that pack of cards by clicking the link in the show notes below. It's about $6.99 and it's great value, as Top Trumps always is. We will see you on Sunday from 8 p.m. for our Silverstone Grand Prix race review. Until we see you next, work hard, be kind, and have fun. This was Missed Apex Podcast. I could have done that all night.